one constant through all the years, Ray, has been baseball.
Little roller up along first. Behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win. Now the 2-1. Line drive to the base. Just as they score the tying run. Green to the plate. And he is saved. Saved at the plate. The Braves go to the World Series.
Have reserved seats somewhere along one of the baselines that sat when they were children and cheered their heroes.
Gibson swings and a fly ball to deep right field. This is going to be a home run. Unbelievable!
A 3-run home run for Bucky Dent. The Yankees now lead by a score of 3-2.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mazeroski has hit a 1-0 pitch over the left field fence at Ford Field to win the 1960 World Series.
They'll arrive at your door as innocent as children, longing for the past.
The Pope arrived at Yankee Stadium. As one enthusiastic announcer put it, he is standing on second base.
Reggie Jackson. Long drive right field. It is goodbye. Big World Series.
The Blue Jays are World Series champions as Joe Carter hits a 3-run home run.
Back and throws. There's a left back. It's going to be, I believe, the Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant. The Giants from the pennant.
The 0-1 pitch. A liner off Nagy's glove into center field. The Florida Marlins have won the World Series.
The memories will be so thick, you'll have to brush them away from the faces.
The 1-0 delivery to Fisk. He swings. Long drive. Left field. If it stays fair, it's gone. Home run. The Red Sox win. And the series is...
Lolich fires. Ball is hit high in the air. This should be the series. Freehand waving everybody away in foul territory. Detroit wins. Here's the pitch to Willie.
There's a liner straight to Richardson. The ball game is over and the World Series is over. Willie McCovey hit it like a bullet. A line drive right
Baseball to mark the time.
The Oakland A's take.
I'll tell you what, we haven't heard.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Candlestick Park for Game 3 of the 1989 World Series.
It's been erased like a blackboard, rebuilt and erased again.
Frank Robinson, the right-hand batter.
Long drive to left field. Leva. This is it back.
Base hit loaded, 1 out. Pena in a jam. The Twins are going to win the World Series. The Twins have won it.
Ozzie with 1 out. Smith corks one into right down the line. It may go. Go crazy, folks. Go crazy. It's a home run. And the
Willie Mays just brought this crowd to its feet with a catch, which must have been an optical illusion to a lot of people.
This field, this game, is a part of our past, Ray. It reminds us of all that once was good, and it could be again.
Broadcasted live.
Hey! Who wants to have some fun?
There are balls coming from all over the place. Left field, center field, right field. See, this is the kind of thing, quite honestly, right now, that makes you want to see the Chicago Cubs team lose.
Now, you just saying you want to have fun, or do you really want to have fun?
It'll be fun.
Will the next person that sees anybody throw anything onto this field, point them out, or get them out of here. You don't live in Cleveland. You live in Cincinnati.
You talking to me? You talking to me?
That is the farthest thing in the universe from the truth.
Hello, everyone, live. It's the Dan Scott Show. And right there is your host, Dan Scott.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the program. I'm Dan Scott. That is Forrest Stulting.
Way over here.
Yeah, well, there's the generation gap between us, and now there's an actual gap between us. But there's a good reason
absolutely.
for that, which we're going to explain coming up here in just a moment. But we're very happy to have you with us this morning. Hope that your day is going well so far. Kind of on an in-between day. We had that stretch of really beautiful days, and we've had a stretch of gloomy days, and today it's a little bit in between. It's mostly cloudy, but a little bit of sun, a little bit of blue skies kind of patching through there, and hopefully it's going to end up being a good day. I can tell you this.
What's that?
Walking the dogs at 6:30 this morning, it was already muggy.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And not what you would expect for October the 12th. But
all that rain in the air.
Yeah, if that's the worst thing that we have to deal with today, we're all going to be in good shape. We have a very busy show lined up for you. We'll tell you why these chairs are vacant in just a moment. But coming up right around 10:25 will be our regular Wednesday visit with Dave Glenn of the ACC Sports, ACCSports.com website. And then at 10:45, Brett Harker, the Furman baseball coach, is going to make an appearance with us here and talk about what's going on with the team during fall practice, the renovations to Latham Stadium, which just continue to make the place look even more beautiful than it already has, or already did. And, of course, they have a alumni game coming up a week from this Saturday. So we got a lot to jam in to the show today, and never hurts either one of us to talk baseball.
Oh, not at all,
especially
Dan.
Furman baseball.
Oh, it's one of my favorite pastimes right there.
Yep.
So.
These chairs are open because right here at the top of the show, scheduled, and we're hoping they're on their way, are the Furman men's soccer coach Doug Allison, one of his former players, McNeil Cronin, and McNeil's young daughter, I believe she's 4 years old, Quinn. Last night was the annual Quinn game for Furman soccer against Wofford. Unfortunately, it was a 1-0 loss.
Tough loss for the Paladins.
To the Terriers, and I saw where they were playing a man down again for the second time in 3 games.
4 games.
4 games?
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Anyway, it's not a habit you want to get into.
Not at all, yes. Sir.
But they started this game shortly after young Quinn was born, and once Doug found out the circumstances, Quinn has Down syndrome. And so this game is being done every year now to bring awareness for Down syndrome, and McNeil and Quinn come down every year. Quinn has her Furman soccer jersey, and she is just treated like the princess that she is. They are all supposed to be here in studio with us in just a matter of moments, and if that stretches on a little bit, well, then we'll make some adjustments as we move forward. But we're hoping that they're going to be here in just the literally the next 2 or 3 minutes to talk to us before McNeil and Quinn head back to the Triangle area of North Carolina.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. Just seeing not only her face, but the many faces of the children last night in the pregame ceremony that they always do before these Quinn games. It was just a really great sight to see, and really warms your heart seeing all those smiles on the kids' faces.
Scott Keeler has uttered one of the great unquestionable truths, that the further back you can get the camera away from the two of us, the better. And I would agree. Probably need to go ahead and scale it back so far it looks like you're looking through the wrong end of a telescope.
There you go.
You know,
yeah, just
where we look like we're about that
blur
big.
us all out.
Make
us look great.
But no such luck. So while we're waiting, let's go ahead and get to some other things going on campus real quick, and the trivia question for the day, and then we'll take a break, and hopefully in that time we'll have a better idea of what's going on.
Absolutely. So last night the men's soccer team battled the Wofford Terriers. They lost 1-0. Kyle McClagan was shown a red card around the 31st minute last night, and then the Wofford Terriers scored the late goal with about 9 minutes to go in the game, so they won that 1-0 in 90 minutes. And then the women's golf team, they finished second at the Betsy Rawls Invitational. Haley Harford finished third with a -1, and Natalie Srinivas finished fourth with a score of even. So they did really well. And that's all that was going on last night for the Paladins.
And you said Betsy Rawls, not Betsy Ross.
Rawls.
Yeah.
Yeah. No one's singing at this one today or like yesterday. So, and there's no more events until Friday. Cross country will compete in Wisconsin on Friday, and at High Point men's golf will have another tournament in Tennessee this weekend in Johnson City. Women's volleyball will travel up to Macon, Georgia, to face Mercer, and the women's soccer team will host Western Carolina on Friday at 7 o'clock. So still a pretty full slate for your Paladins coming on this week, and that was just Friday, not even mentioning Saturday and Sunday. We'll get to those later in the week.
Yeah, let's go ahead and quickly do the trivia question because the guests of honor are here.
And the trivia question deals with the guest of honor.
Okay.
What year did McNeil Cronin win SoCon Freshman of the Year?
Well, his freshman year, of course.
that
was easy.
Ding, ding, ding. Attaboy. But,
I mean, they call me Captain Obvious, but that's
what year in history?
I got you.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. So what year McNeil Cronin? I wonder if he knows the answer to that question.
Yeah, my test is his memory.
What year did he win Freshman of the Year in the SoCon? All right, we will find out. When we come back, we'll have Doug Allison, McNeil Cronin, and Quinn all in studio with us. The show, as always, by the way, is brought to you by our friends at the Atlanta Bread Company. Don't forget, this time of year, heading through Thanksgiving, they have the seasonal turkey cranberry sandwich that you'll want to check out. It's fantastic, and the weather promised me it is going to start turning cooler.
I don't know, Dan.
It is going to start turning cooler, so you're going to want to think about chili and soup and warm paninis and things along those lines. Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Plaza in Greenville, just a couple miles from campus here. Tell them thank you for what they do when it comes to sponsoring this program. All right, we will take a break, come back, and get to the fun stuff when we return. This is the Dan Scott Show. Don't go away.
Hey, Furman fans, it's baseball season. Here at Ingalls, we know that as you root for the home team, sometimes you want more than just peanuts and Cracker Jack. And while we do deliver on your favorite ballpark classics, we're proud to offer a packed lineup of everything you need to make your next meal a home run. Ingalls, a proud sponsor of Furman Baseball and the official grocery store of Furman Athletics. Go Dins!
The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point offers a dining experience that will have you coming back for more time and time again. Everything is freshly made on site, including the different varieties of bread and all the baked goodies. And the menu, Atlanta Bread Company offers a wide variety from hot soups and chili to hot and cold sandwiches and paninis. Even breakfast selections topped off with your choice of piping hot coffees. Come see for yourself. You'll love it. The Atlanta Bread Company at Cherrydale Point, proud sponsors of the Furman Paladins and the Dan Scott Show.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Traveler's Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Oh, baby, I'd like to say this is controlled chaos in the studio, but I don't know that that's exactly the case or not. Welcome back to the show. Dan Scott, Forrest Stolting, and the two chairs that were between us have been occupied. Let's see if I can give you a little more rope. McNeil, here, scoot in this way. That'll help a little bit. It's McNeil Cronin, former Furman soccer player.
Oh, yeah.
This is Quinn.
Say hi.
Say hello.
Hi, Mommy.
Hi, Mommy. Can we, Mommy? Can you move away from the camera a little bit? But if you're going to stand in front of the camera, face it.
Yeah.
This is Quinn, and who is this?
This is Case. So thanks for having us here. Quinn is our 5-year-old.
Yeah.
And Case is our 1-year-old. We got Janie, a 3-year-old. Case Patrick Cronin. That's his name.
Case Patrick Cronin.
And then thank you for having us. It's an honor to be here back on the show.
Thank you for coming and joining us. And I think we all know this 3-year-old here.
We're looking at, oh, man.
You got to hold the mic, actually hold the mic up. And you should have enough room, I think. If I would quit stepping on the cord, you could actually pull it through. Again, we like to say this is live broadcasting at its best. That might be stretching it a little bit. She's just going to roam around. She can pop on and off camera whenever she wants. Exactly. So, all right. So I know the game did not go as we hoped yesterday. You've got to get out of this habit of playing a man down. From what I understand, second time in 4 games.
Yeah, I know.
Pull the mic up there.
Yeah, that's not fun. It's not fun to do, and but I think even with that, I just talked to McNeil about it. I think we played pretty well, and had chances to win. In fact, had a goal taken away, which we just looked on film, and it looked like the goal was a good goal, but the linesman gave it, and then the ref went over and changed his mind, and so we were back to even, and then they scored at the end, but. Playing a man down is not easy, and we police ourselves pretty harshly, and we end up, he'll miss the next game too. But I thought we took it to them pretty well, pretty hard, and that is a tough game to lose. But that wasn't, the main thing that happened last night.
Right.
It was a huge thing that happened last night.
Well, I wanted to get that out of the way.
I appreciate that, Dan.
So we could get to the main attraction. For those of you who don't know the story, McNeil is a former Furman soccer player, and by the way, you're the subject of our trivia question.
All right, excellent.
Today, and which
honored.
We hope that you know the answer to this.
Mommy.
What's the question?
What year was McNeil Cronin the freshman of the year in the SoCon?
I do know the answer to that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Do you know the answer to that?
I think it's got to be 2000.
I don't know.
2000.
He has the answer.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll find out.
That seems pretty good.
Oh,
I like that.
You can't cheat right there.
I like that.
It's over here.
You're a doctor, right?
Yeah, I'm an anesthesiologist up in Winston-Salem.
Can you read his handwriting?
Yeah, that's pretty rough. That looks good.
That's like a prescription. That's
our
prescription right there.
Yeah, that's our code.
Yeah, this Forrest is our spotter for our road football games, and part of his job is to jot me notes down, and he hands me notes sometimes, and I'm like, what kind of hieroglyphics are these? And then I handed it back to him, and one time he had trouble reading what he wrote himself. So anyway, so you've got a legacy with this program anyway, and then won't you just take us through how the Quinn game developed and what we're doing here, and if she wants to wander back up here sometime, we'd love to have her as front and center when she feels comfortable doing so.
Yeah.
Right now she's exploring.
She is exploring. So again, thanks for having us and giving us free reign of the studio in here. So the Quinn game was born 3 years ago. Last night was the 3rd annual game, and Quinn is 5 years old, and she was born with Down syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
My wife and I found out about that diagnosis when she was born. We didn't know about it before she was born, and so very quickly we decided that we wanted to advocate for people like Quinn in our communities. And
let me interrupt and ask one question. Is it unusual not to know before the child is born these days?
I think it happens in all different scenarios.
Really?
Sometimes it's your first child, like it was for us. Other times it's later in life. We were young when we had Quinn.
But I mean, for the doctors not to know before the child is born is what I'm getting at. Is that unusual?
I think it's a little unusual, and sometimes diagnoses and ultrasounds prenatally will give you that diagnosis, and other times things look normal like they did for us. And so when she was born, we decided that we wanted to be an advocate for her and raise awareness in our communities and promote acceptance and inclusion. And so in talking with those issues with Coach Allison, the Quinn game was sort of born, a game that would do all those things, would raise awareness, promote values like inclusion and acceptance. And with the Quinn game, we've got one event that does all those things. So we're thrilled to be a part of it, and it really is a tribute to the Furman soccer program and to Coach Allison that he gives a game each year for that platform and that stage for us to espouse those virtues.
How has it grown in 3 years for either one of you?
I think that, when we started it, the goal was, and in my mind, if one of those people in the audience last night, or if one of those players on Wofford or Furman takes with them in their life an experience of accepting and choosing to include, and when they're in doubt with someone with differences, any difference, if they choose to include that person and to accept that person completely, if one person does that, then that's a success. And so that hasn't changed from the first year to the second year to the third year. And I hope in many years from now, we'll have had many people that have been changed by that game and seeing Quinn and meeting other people with Down syndrome in our community. That's really the goal, is just to have people choose to include people with differences.
And the thing I like from talking with Doug about it, Doug, is that you basically make her the princess, and it's her night, and she's basically the star of the show.
Yeah, and it's great. I love seeing her grow up on our field. And there was one difference last night. McNeil didn't score the goal last night. He took her down, and she actually started dribbling the ball herself all the way down the field past the Wofford players and scored a goal that the referee didn't take off. So I was sorry, I had to say that, but she did. She dribbled, and you can tell that she's playing the game a little bit now.
Yeah.
And as she dribbled all the way down the field, I mean, our players are following. And the first year, McNeil had to end up, I think he wanted to let her score, but he hit the ball so hard in the back of the net. You remember the old days? He was celebrating, he took his shirt off, and he was running around.
There weren't many of those, though.
But she was doing it then, and it was great celebration. The crowd were really into it. Both teams were really into it, and I want to thank the Wofford coach and the Wofford guys for being a big part of this as well. But I mean, and our players too, for taking it into the right context and making sure that she is the princess for the day. This is her day, and I love the fact that McNeil comes back and Kelly comes back, and they come back, and the whole family is there, and just seeing her smile and being able to do that, I want her to have this day in the sun. But there's a lot more of a story than just that. But she's an incredible little girl. Yeah, I love seeing her every year.
What kind of impact have you seen outside of the Furman, the Quinn game?
Yeah, so we're involved with the Down syndrome community in our hometown of Winston-Salem, North Carolina as well. And so in all aspects of our life, we try and include Quinn in everything that we do, in schools and in play groups at home. And so our little sphere, they love Quinn and they know Quinn, and they've always known her. And so there's a whole lot more in common. People with Down syndrome have a whole lot more in common than they do have differences. And so I think to separate or to focus on the differences is a mistake. They're phenomenally loving people, and to know them and to be lucky enough to be a family member of one or a father of someone with Down syndrome is a true blessing.
This is McNeil Cronin, former Furman soccer player. Doug Allison was his coach and remains the coach here at Furman, and we're talking about the Quinn game. His young 5-year-old daughter, Quinn, who is in studio here. We want to get her on camera at least one more time before we get out of here and see if she's got some words of wisdom for us. But the annual Quinn game was last night, and here is this beautiful little princess. Can you say "Go Paladins"?
Paladins.
Yeah. Say "Go Dins."
Yes.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Did you score a goal last night?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah. Do you love the Quinn game and love Coach Allison?
Yeah, you too, Daddy.
Yeah, I do too. That's right.
It gives a bucket.
Yeah, she loves everybody.
First thing she did, I don't know, you may have seen it on camera when we were at the break and they were coming in. She walked in, she gave Forrest a hug, and she walked over and gave me a hug. And I think that's kind of emblematic of who this young lady is, and it starts with her mommy and daddy.
Well, the Quinn game started with Coach Allison, and
hi, Mommy.
This was something.
But I mean, the loving and the
yeah, absolutely. It's a family, and I want to thank a couple of my old teammates, Matt Foxhall and Andy Kidd, who came from out of state to the game last night, and came on a Tuesday night to be a part of the Quinn game. So the family of Furman soccer has been going on for a long time, and it's a special thing.
Quinn, can you look at Coach Doug and say win?
Win.
Thanks, Quinn. Rhymes with Quinn, yeah? Time to win.
Everybody's a critic, right?
Yeah. That's all right.
All right, time to go.
Time to go. She's made her appearance.
Yeah. Yeah. Watch out. There you go.
Hey.
Okay.
And Doug, just from your perspective, to see other former players coming back and supporting him.
That was amazing to see. I mean, Andy drove up from Jacksonville. Matt was in from Texas via Jacksonville, and I think a family reunion somewhere in Charleston or something. But to see them just come back all that way just on a Tuesday night to support McNeil and support the Quinn game is just really heartwarming for me. And we had those guys at the pregame meal, and I wanted our current players to see that this is what it's all about. 15 years after graduation, these guys are all still in touch, or in each other's weddings, or in each other's life still, and they're prepared to drive 5-6 hours just to come on a Tuesday night to support a former teammate in a really important cause for his family. That tells you everything about these kids.
Well, I mean, I think beyond just a college experience, that is what sports at its best is supposed to be like. You talk to retired professional athletes, and they'll tell you the thing they miss most is the camaraderie from the locker room. And when you can take that and extend that further on in your life and not just leave it behind, that's special.
Yeah, they're going to play a couple years of soccer games. They played one last night. They'll play several years more, but it's those lessons and those friendships and taking what Furman has, taking what we saw on the field last night before the game, that respect for people, that acceptance and inclusion of all people, and bringing that with them when they graduate to whatever they do that's the real magic.
And honestly, Forrest, it really started with Andy Kidd. When he said to me, you need to see this video of McNeil in Winston-Salem when on TV. I think it was on the news or a TV show, promoting awareness for Down syndrome. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, well, have a look at this. And he sent me the little clip of the video, and I was just gobsmacked, as they say in England. But I was just seeing that changed my perspective, really, of a lot of the players. Is I still see these guys as players, and I know what they were like when they were younger. We talked about recruiting McNeil when he's 15 and 16 years old. Yeah. And then coming through, and then wait a minute, he's not a player anymore. He's a father. And it was such an important thing. I'm like, wait a minute, does that make me a granddad? You know, but
yes,
it
does.
Well, I was going to use the word
old. Great granddad,
godfather.
Yeah, old, but that was the other word that came up.
Really cutting, isn't it?
It is.
But just to see that, it just changed my whole perspective on this. This is such an important job we have as teachers and educators and coaches to say, you've got to prepare these kids to go out and be someone like McNeil, to be prepared to go on TV and be prepared to lead in the ever arena you're in, to say, I'm prepared to do this and not be scared about it, and say, this is something that's good, that we need to celebrate this life. We need to go on TV and say it's okay. And then for a former teammate to send me that video, I'm like, I got to do something. Something has to happen here. I'm like, what can we do? And I talked to Andy. He said, well, let's do a game. Why not? Why don't we get McNeil back and Quinn back and the family back and teammates back and promote this through the game? We have a great stage here. We have a great stage at Furman, and why don't we use that stage? So it's something that there's a lot of negativity around some sports and things that are going on in sports these days. Before the game and all this kind of stuff. Let's do some positive stuff through sports.
Yeah,
this
that's
is
well
a
said.
really, really important thing to do.
What is, I don't know if you can even boil it down to one thing or one basic message, but from what you and your wife have learned, what is the message that you would hope that other people would take away from what they saw last night or what we're talking about here today?
It's simple. Choose to include. That's the message. Absolutely. Treat people with respect. Treat people with kindness. Whenever you're in doubt, choose to include. Go up to an individual that's different from you, that you may not know how to interact with them, and just introduce yourself. And that's the one-liner is, when in doubt, choose to include.
That little girl, I can tell just from the time that she's been here, is a little spitfire.
Yes, she is. Yeah, she keeps my wife and I pretty busy.
and as any 5-year-old would do. So
that's right.
That from that standpoint, there's not anything really any different, right?
Yeah, we got a full busy life. Quinn's 5, Janie's 3, Case is 1. And so we're in the trenches, and we're having fun with it, though.
Sounds fire in trenches. We got all these things going on right now.
Right. Yeah. and to have 3 kids, 5 and under.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it is a blessing. It's a lot of fun.
And Dan, we appreciate you doing this as well, and having McNeil on and Forrest, same thing, just to promote this even more.
Yeah.
And if this brings more awareness or includes more people, that I think it's a good thing your show is doing as well.
Well, I got a chance to talk to McNeil. We talked via phone after the game last year, and I just thought, well, if they're here, we might as well see if we can get them in studio. And I appreciate you guys making the time to come here, and hopefully it's something we can do every year moving forward. But I just wanted people to put who couldn't be there to put a face with this effort, this entire thing that you guys are doing on a yearly basis, and the face is that young princess over there.
Yeah, October is Down Syndrome Awareness Month, so this is a perfect time to talk about these things. And thank you for letting us come on. Thanks to Coach Allison for giving us the stage of his beautiful stadium once a year. It's a real honor to be here.
If people want more information either about what you're doing or about Down syndrome research, what can they do?
So there's several organizations. The National Down Syndrome Society is something they can Google and get to that link. In Winston-Salem, we have the Piedmont Down Syndrome Support Network. Gives great information. And then in Greenville, there's the Greenville Down Syndrome Family Alliance. And, again, they have a website, and all that information is up there. You can check it out.
And we better let you go because Mama's got her hands full over there. She's playing defense.
Yeah, we're headed to Stacks. We're going to go get some lunch.
Nice. I love it. Hey, are you going to be able to come back tomorrow on your regularly scheduled time or not?
May not, Dan. Just depends how nice you are to me.
Well, then we'll talk to Doug sometime next week.
Yeah, next week. Yeah. That sounds good.
Hey, McNeil, thank you very much, man.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Good to see you. That's McNeil Cronin. Somewhere over there is Quinn and the rest of the Cronin family, and we hope you enjoyed getting to meet her and getting to hear a little more about the Quinn game. We'll take a break and come back, and when we return, Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, will be up with us next. Don't go away.
Looking for a good lunch spot in the Travelers Rest area? The Cafe at Williams Hardware is your place. Williams Hardware has food for the whole family, from the famous Reuben to the barbecue chicken quesadilla and their daily lunch specials, which includes the award-winning BLT on pimento cheese with pepper jelly, served Tuesday to Thursday. Williams Hardware also serves breakfast on Saturdays from 8 to 11, perfect before Furman home game. And don't forget the gift shop, which offers items for anyone on your list. Go see your friends at the Cafe at Williams Hardware, 13 South Main Street in downtown TR. Full menu and operating hours at the Cafe at WilliamsHardware.com.
Say you've got a busted phone or tablet screen. Time to get a new device? Nope. Time to give it CPR. CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale can repair almost any phone or tablet screen on the market and usually can do it same day. In fact, if you have an iPhone, the fix usually takes less than an hour. CPO Cell Phone Repair also can fix computers and gaming systems, both screens and hard drives. And they sell refurbished devices and new accessories. Stop by and see the new owner, Janet Culver, today, and check them out on Facebook. That's CPR Cell Phone Repair at Cherrydale, 864-282-9097. Give it CPR today.
We'll see you later.
How sweet is that?
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to atlantabreadcompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it, too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville. All right, welcome back to the show. Our thanks to Doug Allison, to McNeil Cronin, his wife, and all of their kids, but especially young Quinn, who was the highlight of
she really
highlight
was.
of the night last night and highlight of the morning today. And again, you can find out more about Down syndrome research by simply Googling the National Down Syndrome Research place, and you can find out all kinds of great information there. And every year that we have the soccer game here, that was really good stuff. We have more good stuff. Every Wednesday at this time, we spend some time with the best in the business when it comes to covering the ACC, and many times so many more topics. He is Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, and host of the David Glenn Show, syndicated throughout the state of North Carolina. He joins us via the aptly named celebrity guest line. David, how are you, sir?
Doing great, Dan. Good morning to you.
Good morning. We just had a little chaos here in the studio, but good chaos. Every year, one of the former players for Furman Soccer comes back, and his daughter, who was born with Down syndrome, who's now 5 years old, this was the third annual game, they come back and they have a Down syndrome awareness night, and we had her in studio here, and she was just a little fire plug, man. It was a great bit of disorganized chaos.
Nice. That's one of my favorite things to do in the media, is just kind of reach out into the community, try to be a part of positive things. And I'll tell you this, since you mentioned soccer, I don't know the format of that particular game, but I get invited to a lot of things, most frequently golf tournaments. So certainly I'm in good enough shape to get around 18 holes, especially with a cart. But occasionally I've been invited to other things. And I'm just telling you, bowling is easy to raise money for charity. Golf and tennis I find mostly easy. Half-court basketball is really, really easy. Baseball, softball, mostly easy. When I've been invited to soccer charity fundraisers, I'm telling you, my children and my former players as youth soccer coach come out there and will actually yell at me as I get tired on the pitch the way I tell them, don't dog it, get back on defense. Mm-hmm. And it's one of the most memorable times in all of my stuff out in the community, because I think my players just loved being able to turn the coach's words back on the coach himself. And soccer can really wear you out if you're playing it the right way.
Well, fortunately for all involved here, this is an actual college soccer game between Furman and Wofford. And what they do is they have a big pregame ceremony, among other things that go along with that night, in which young Quinn got to score a goal, weaving her way through the entire Wofford soccer team. So it was pretty cool.
Finely tuned young college athletes. That's the way it's supposed to be done.
No kidding. And the way I like to remember myself being way back in the day, not so much anymore. As we reach the halfway point of the college football season, and we are on the cusp, I believe, of the first committee polls starting to come out. We're getting very close to that. Biggest surprises, biggest disappointments in the league at the halfway point. Where would Florida State fit in there, for instance?
Well, we've had time to digest that one, but that's got to be number one on the list. At least if we look through our eyes of August or the preseason, the Seminoles were picked by most to win the ACC, and they're really not even relevant. I mean, they're 1-2 in conference play. They're 1-3 for the first time since Bobby Bowden's first year as the Seminoles head coach way back in the mid-1970s. So that has to be considered a huge surprise. We all know the main reasons for it: injury to DeAndre Francois, the veteran quarterback, but also just really poor play on the offensive line. When you go from preseason ACC favorite, and at the time, the most likely candidate to represent the league in the college football playoff, to really out of the conversation entirely, especially now with the benefit of hindsight, we have to put that number one. Because, Dan, I think when we look around the rest of this league, when you and I talked in August, I certainly and many others thought Miami and Virginia Tech would be the best of the Coastal. Now, Georgia Tech might have something to say about that. Virginia is actually out to a 4-1 start. the Cavaliers are a positive surprise if the Seminoles are a disappointing surprise. But Miami and Virginia Tech, that head-to-head matchup later this year, will go a long way toward determining the Coastal. And then we all knew Clemson would be really good. And most of us believed that Dave Doran had his best team in Raleigh at NC State in year 5. So they're the only 2 undefeated teams in the Atlantic right now, at least in conference play. They go head-to-head at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh in early November. So if you're circling 2 games on the calendar at this point, Clemson at NC State, Miami against Virginia Tech, they're not the only ones that matter, but right now it looks like they matter most. And in terms of surprises, really, it's just the Seminoles in the negative sense and the Cavaliers and maybe some might say Georgia Tech in the positive sense.
You know, we got to see North Carolina State up close and personal when Furman played up there a few weeks back, and obviously they're a very talented team. But, Dave, one of the hallmarks of Dave Doran's tenure at North Carolina State is that somewhere along the line they will lay 1 or 2 very colossal eggs during the course of a season. Some say they did that in the opener against South Carolina, and they have been playing very well since. Do you get the sense that they're going to be able to avoid that big letdown again as the season moves forward?
Assuming good health, I think this team is better constructed to avoid that than certainly any Dave Doran team. But even most of the Tom O'Brien, Chuck Amato, Mike O'Kane teams that I've seen over the years, they're really sturdy on the front 7 on defense, and that's a great foundation to try to avoid an upset. They have a really accurate passer in Ryan Finley, who's turning himself into an NFL prospect. They have game breakers at the skill positions with Nyheim Hines in the backfield, Kelvin Harmon and others at wide receiver. So they're a better built team, really. It might be the best NC State team I've seen since a Chuck Amato-led squad that had a quarterback named Phillip Rivers 15 years ago, won 11 games, setting the school record for victories in the process. I mean, 15 years is a pretty long time. That's half my career of covering the ACC. I really believe this Wolfpack is that good. Now, that doesn't mean they automatically go to Notre Dame and win. But as you mentioned with the South Carolina disappointment, and I would say it is that was the laying of the egg. Maybe the Wolfpack got that out of its system in week 1. Remember, if they lose to the Fighting Irish, it's like losing to the Gamecocks, where it may damage your dream season vision, but it does not damage your ACC standing. And even though Notre Dame is this kind of sort of partial member in football playing 5 games, they don't count in the standings. So remember that Clemson at NC State matters infinitely more than a loss to the Gamecocks or a trip to South Bend against Notre Dame. And the Wolfpack is starting to dream, hey, if we can take care of, say, a road trip to Pitt this week, if we can take care of a down UNC team in a rivalry game later this year, Wake Forest is not a pushover, but it's not hard to envision 7 ACC victories for NC State. And I still think, of course, Clemson's the better football team than the Wolfpack. But, Dave Doran entered this season with 9 wins and 23 losses in conference play and had people calling for his head. Now he has a chance to put up not only a good ACC record, but maybe even shock the world and win the Atlantic Division. Wouldn't that be fascinating? Plenty of work to be done, but this is a better built Wolfpack team than anyone I've seen in a long time.
Hey, Dave, Forrest here. I just want to go back to Virginia a little bit. So Bronco Mendenhall has the Cavs at 4-1, and they play a pretty weak schedule over the next couple games, and they kind of get into the gauntlet. They face Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, and then VT. Do you see the Cavaliers winning more than 7 games, or 7 games their plateau for this year?
Well, I'd be surprised if they went past 7, but getting back to looking through the eyeballs of August through the offseason, that should be considered a gargantuan step in the right direction for UVA. Remember, Bronco Mendenhall came from BYU last year. He had the worst team in the ACC, and they played down to those expectations, going 2-10. That's a guy who was used to winning 9 or 10 games a year at BYU. I didn't know that year 2 would turn out to be a very good bowl possibility. I knew Bronco Mendenhall's track record over a decade or so as a head coach suggested that the Cavaliers eventually would turn things around. But as you said, 4-1 start with the next 3 games against a damaged UNC team, a bottom-tier Boston College team, and a bottom-tier Pitt team. I mean, the Cavaliers have a legitimate shot to be 7-1 at the time that gauntlet you mentioned starts. I wouldn't pick them to win any of those games in November. They might lose to Georgia Tech, Louisville, Miami, and Virginia Tech. But if you get to 7-1 before that gauntlet begins, you've already realized some of your preseason dreams. Most didn't think the Cavs could even contemplate a bowl trip, much less something better than that. And yet here they are, 4-1. If they even get 2 of these next 3 against very beatable opponents, well, there's your bowl eligibility. And then Bronco Mendenhall can go out on the recruiting trail and say, hey, from 2 wins to 6 or more wins, that's exactly the sign of progress that most of these kids and families and high school coaches want to see if they're going to end up spending their college years in Charlottesville. That was the goal. The bowl was the goal for the Cavaliers, and they are extremely well positioned to make that happen.
You have a couple of big games this weekend in the ACC. You have FSU traveling to Duke, and then Georgia Tech at Miami. I think that GT Miami game is going to have some pretty big impact on the Coastal Division. What do you guys say about that?
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, Florida State and Duke, might have been interesting if the Devils had not stumbled in their last 2 and the Seminoles had not had the problems we mentioned earlier. I think the really big game is Georgia Tech's trip to Miami. I mean, the Hurricanes are knocking on the national top 10. But Georgia Tech hasn't lost a conference game yet. Their only loss was a real nail-biter against Tennessee early this year. Taquan Marshall has really taken over the quarterback position and is running that triple option very well for the Yellow Jackets. And Miami, while 4-0 and undefeated in conference play and overall, they have not played the toughest schedule yet. I think most of us would describe Florida State, but a wounded Florida State, and now this Georgia Tech team as the 2 biggest challenges of the Miami schedule. They've had the Hurricanes impact their original schedule in a way that was very disruptive. But, beating Bethune-Cookman, beating Arkansas State, even beating Duke convincingly, those were expected victories in Mark Richt's second year at Miami. The Georgia Tech challenge is a bigger one. It does come at home, but that defense is really good at Miami. I think we're going to end up back where at least most of us started in the preseason. Virginia Tech and Miami are leading the way. The Yellow Jackets are one of the teams in the Coastal that has a chance to spoil that equation.
Visiting with Dave Glenn, ACCSports.com, and the David Glenn Show. Dave, because we're running behind, we need to make this the last question, but it's a doozy, I promise you. Given everything that has happened in college basketball, specifically at Louisville in the last week since last we talked, who's going to help Dave Padgett coach that basketball team? Because right now there's not anybody else on staff.
I really don't even know the answer to that question. And when I saw that those assistant coaches were suspended by the university, I started thinking of what is the most extreme set of circumstances I've seen a single head coach deal with. And I can't think of many that would come close, because this is a first-time head coach. This is thrown into his lap at the last minute. You didn't have an entire offseason to prepare for this. This is a young guy who probably wouldn't have been a head coach for a decade or so in the normal course of things. You're following a Hall of Famer. You actually have a team with enough talent to compete for a national championship and an ACC championship. I have no idea where they're going to turn right now, Dan, because most of these guys who might otherwise think of Louisville as a great job are entrenched in their current job, already in preseason practice, and wondering what sledgehammer might hit Louisville basketball from the NCAA. This is not Rick Pitino hiring, you have 1,000 applicants for one of his right-hand man positions. This is the opposite of that, even though it's a brand-name basketball program. I'm not sure if David Padgett knows where those answers are coming from right now.
Yeah, it's going to be intriguing to watch as they move forward, him being the only paid coach on staff right now. Dave, short and sweet, but tell everybody about the best way to catch everything that you do.
ACCSports.com. Football magazine has been selling like hotcakes. The basketball magazine is out, so those annual glossies we do are both out for the bigger sports that we follow. and every other piece of information about our newsletter, the audio that we have, and the magazine and website itself is right there at accsports.com.
Thank you, my friend. We'll look forward to talking to you again next week.
Thank you, Dan. Forrest, take care, guys.
Thanks, Dave.
That is Dave Glenn, accsports.com. All right, to break we go, and when we come back, Brad Harker is in the house. He'll join us here in studio, talk some Furman baseball to close out this Wednesday show right after this. Don't go away.
Stuck in a state of falling behind? Struggling to keep up with your kids, finances, insurance? Then let State Farm agent Steve Borkland in Travelers Rest help you simplify and get to a better state. Because with Steve handling your auto, home, and life insurance, you'll have more time for everything else. More money, too, because adding State Farm policies could mean earning discounts worth up to 40%. That's money Steve can help you put towards a college savings plan. Call State Farm agent Steve Borkland today and get to a better state with State Farm.
Let me tell you something, Cowboy. This rookie can really bring the heat.
He's smoky and spicy with a Chipotle style all his own.
It's a new Montgomery Inn Chipotle barbecue sauce. Make it a part of your home team.
Available now at your neighborhood grocer or online at CincyFavorites.com.
The Atlanta Bread Company wants to make your dining experience as convenient as possible, especially if you're ordering takeout. Go online to AtlantaBreadCompany.com, place your order there, and pay for it too. Then, when you get to the restaurant at Cherrydale Point, you breeze right by the cash registers and go straight to the pickup counter where your food will be waiting. And speaking of food, try the new Shrimp Po' Boy, a delicious and surprisingly healthy addition to the already great menu. That's the Atlanta Bread Company, Cherrydale Point in Greenville. All right, welcome back to the show. Sometimes all you can do is just shake your head. I'm Dan Scott. That's Forrest Stulting. It has been a busy program today, and that's good, though. It kind of keeps us moving. Less of us, more of other people is usually a good formula for success. Pull your microphone up. This is a stranger in a strange land.
Well, what's going on right now, Dan? I'm a little nervous to be on air with you. It's been a while.
I know. Haven't talked to you since at least on the air since June.
Yeah, you get a new basketball coach. You're all excited about that. Football's putting up 100 points a game. You don't got time for baseball. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's like 4 more months. Come on.
And how many times have I said, "Hey, Brett, let's do something on the air"?
That's on me. I'm too busy burning my hand off.
Let's big. You know, I'm not even going. I'm going to let you off the hook. I'm not even going to throw you under the bus over the self-inflicted wound.
Yeah, I will tell you that we preach on a daily basis being blue collar as a program.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're blue collar and you got a coolant leak in your F-150, do you take it to a mechanic or do you hop in there and burn the heck out of your hand yourself? It's B. That's what you do, Dan. That's blue collar right there. So I got 3rd-degree burns right now, but maybe it made us a little bit tougher. I'll take it.
Well, see, I was also, as I told you, thinking you can also teach your kids to be smart. So
yeah, well,
that's
overrated.
There's two sides of that coin. Hey, since the season ended at the SoCon tournament and that wonderful run we had, it's not like you guys haven't been busy. It never ends. Your assistant coaches are on the road recruiting for the rest of the summer, and for people who haven't seen yet, renovations continuing over at Latham Stadium. So just kind of catch us up before we move forward a little.
Yeah. So busy off season as always. You know, trying to. Basically, the big thing that I'm trying to harness right now is take the momentum from that first year as the new coaching staff and all the excitement and the run we made on and make it sustainable, you know, and roll that into this year. And it's not going to be easy. We lost some big names that really helped us both from a leadership and on the baseball field. But we're excited. We think that the bar has been set. You know, we made it to our first championship game since 2005 and tied the all-time wins record at Furman history in our first year. as a coaching staff, and we think the bar has been set now. So now it's just living up to that standard and to continue to take it to the next level, which is ultimately to get 1,076 miles away. That's what I'm going to always base things off of, building a program that can compete at the regionals and super regionals, and eventually work our way to Omaha.
And to do that, obviously, you have to continue to recruit well. And in this instance, you are having to replace your staff ace. You're having to replace a player who meant so much to your program that you named an award after him while he was still alive and a member of the program, which you never see happen, talking about Will Gaddis and Carter Grote, just among others that you're having to replace. So you're always having to look ahead and trying to predict the future, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Which is, I'll tell you, that's not easy. I mean, recruiting's the hardest thing out of this whole bunch. It's easy. The 35 you got here, you see them on a daily basis. You know what you need to get better at. But how do you know what in 2 years you're going to need to get better at? And you're just making the best educated guesses you can make. We're really happy with the freshmen that we have in this year, and we're extremely happy with the class that we put together for 2018 so far. We got a couple more pieces to wrap that up, but to this point, it's probably going to be the highest rated class in Furman history. We're really excited about that group. But we're going to stick to our core values of bringing in small numbers and investing in our kids, and the way we're going to get to Omaha, we're going to treat recruiting different. Instead of bringing in 18 to 25 guys a year, we're going to bring in 8 to 10. We're going to do it the right way, so they know when they become part of the Furman family, it's for 4 years. It's not for a fall. And all that being said, that's an incredibly hard thing to sustain, because you can't miss. When we go recruit, we can't commit a kid because they tweeted out that he hit 92. We got to get to make sure the kid's the right kid. We got to make sure his family's the right family. We got to make sure that when things aren't going well, he can still respond. And all those things are very, very tough to do in a world that recruits 14-year-olds. It's just not something you can do. And the bottom line is, you're only as good as your word. And if a kid commits to us and we commit to them, then we just think that should mean something. So we want to make sure it's the right kid. And when you're only bringing in 8 to 10 a year in an entire country, you got your work cut out for you.
And if he can hit 92 but doesn't have the common sense to allow the radiator to cool down before he tries to open it, then he's not going to be a fit.
I like that. That means that guy's diving in. He's not scared at all.
He's
now
hands-on, Dan.
Just don't use your throwing hand, which
well, there was that.
Yeah.
Bull Durham. What hand did you hit me with?
Exactly. Exactly. And if he can grow a playoff beard, that's always a plus.
Absolutely.
Forrest?
So you have had some fall practice going on the past few weeks. What have you seen from your guys? What's impressed you the past couple of weeks?
You know, we've come a long way very quickly. I'll be honest with you. I was a little alarmed in the way we played early. We were kind of sloppy defensively, and we weren't throwing as many strikes as we got accustomed to last year. I think we finished 4th or 5th in the entire nation in fewest walks per 9 inning last year, and we were very, very proud of that. And we want to continue that tradition. If you're going to beat us, you're going to have to swing the bat.
Which, by the way, is a stark departure from what we had gotten accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, and it is. And it's, a large part of that is I think I hired a very, very good pitching coach. I think that the whole thing is, with 2 pitching minds. And to be honest with you, doing a lot of what Leo Mazzoni has designed and being off the mound, more repetitions with less effort, to where guys are at 60 feet 6 inches, 4 times a week, and it's not at a max velocity, nowhere even close, and it puts a lot of pressure on the pitching coaches behind them to make sure you regulate the effort. But what you're trying to do is basically make sure that they feel most comfortable on an incline throwing 60 feet 6 inches instead of 80 to 90% of your work being on a flat ground in the outfield long tossing. So it's been a switch of our mentality and our approach, but it's really paid off. And Leo Mazzoni knows a thing or two about throwing strikes and getting guys to throw strikes. And we've bought all into it, and we're excited. And, I said I was a little alarmed at first, but we've come a long way. I really challenged our bullpen. That look, we're just going to have the mentality that we're coming right after you, and if you hit the ball and beat us, we can live with that. But not throwing it over the 17-inch plate, that's something I can't live with. And on the last week, we did a whole lot better. I've been very impressed with our outfield. Man, we moved Jabari Richards to left field. He's like a different animal out there. He came back like a kid determined to play at the next level, and man, he's just. I mean, he's been the best player on our team. He's been incredible both defensively and offensively. Landon Kay is obviously as good as they come. We're excited about having him. David Webble is back. Our little spark plug is back from that injury. And then a name to keep an eye out on, Ben Anderson from Atlanta. The kid is the future of our program. He's probably one of the purest baseball players I've seen as a freshman, both defensively, offensively. We can't figure out how to get him out.
He's an outfielder?
He's an outfielder. Okay. So we got some guys really stepping up in the outfield that we're really excited about.
What about on the mound?
So obviously we got Grant Sherman returning, which Will Gaddis obviously got a ton of the attention last year, and rightfully so. If you look at the second half of what Sherman did, he went punch for punch with Gaddis and was as good as anybody in the country. I think at one point he walked one guy in like 52 or 53 innings. It was a really impressive stretch. So obviously he's the front end of it. Jake Crawford has really stepped up on the mound. We've introduced a two-seam, get some movement to his fastball. He's been a low 90s guy with 3 pitches that has absolutely dominated, and looking to move him into possibly moving in a starting role. Heath Hawkins has been electric. Heath has obviously pitched enormous role for us out of the bullpen, but he's got all the makeup to be a starter. He's really developed his changeup, so now he's got 3 pitches that can really dominate. We took a big hit. David Dunleavy was JUCO Pitcher of the Year last year out of USC Lancaster, and man, the guy had weekend starter written all over him. Never had any injuries, never had anything, and pitch against Brandon Elmy, threw a fastball up, and unfortunately popped his elbow, and he's having surgery. So we will lose him this year. That was a big blow for us. But Hunter Baker has looked extremely well. He turned his life around this offseason. He lost 40, 50 pounds. The kid is serious. He's actually probably pitched the best out of anybody the entire fall. He's been all but unhittable. He's a 6'8" dude, so when he's throwing downhill, he's got a chance to be special. So we've looked good on the mound. We're obviously looking for more people to step up. A guy by the name of Matthew Lazaro is a freshman to keep an eye out for. He's a left-handed pitcher out of Atlanta. He reminds me of Sherman as a freshman. Can throw the ball and change speeds and keeps the ball below his knees. Very composed. So he'll look to get some big innings for us as well. And then we need to get Nick Verbeck healthy.
I was going to ask you about Verbeck and ask you about Tyler Kimbrell, both
who
ended last season hurt.
Yeah, so TK actually just made his way back and had his first appearance this weekend and was outstanding, man. He looked like he'd been throwing for 3 months, so we're really excited about what he can contribute. And obviously, look, we think the world of Nick Verbeck. He's got all the talent in the world. He's a pro-type arm with his build, with his velocity. He's just got little nagging stuff here and there that we're looking to clear up, but he looks like he's on the upswing of that and looks like he should be back. So if we can stay healthy, look, we got the staff that I think obviously losing Gaddis and Corals hurts. You're losing 2/3 of your weekend. But I think we have the ability, if we can get some guys in the bullpen to step up, to actually have more pieces to go to. As good as we were last year, we were very limited on the different moves that we can make. I think we have more options if we can stay healthy this year.
Stephen Fondue says, our class never walked anyone. So that's weird we didn't have the fewest walks in 2016.
I think Fondue alone walked as many as we walked all of last year. Fondue, interestingly enough, is now a pitching coach at a high school up in New York. I'm extremely proud of him. He's got guys running Sherman poles up in New York. And for you guys that don't know, Grant Sherman had his moments his freshman year, and we created a thing called a Sherman pole. And it's one of the most difficult running things that you can do. So the ultimate threat at Furman Baseball is if you do this, you're going to have to run a Sherman pole. Well, I'm glad that it's spreading. It's now in the Northeast, and Fondue sent me a video of his high school kids running Sherman poles, and that meant a lot to my heart right there. Glad you're listening in, Fondue. Fondue, that's my guy.
See, I just get the sense, knowing what I know about Fondue as during his time here, that he is a likely candidate to be shot by his own troops. I just
I'll tell you, and this is why I know he's going to be a good coach. He's a competitor.
Yes,
he had that it factor where even when you knew his arm wasn't feeling good, he wanted the ball, and you can't coach those things, but from a leadership standpoint.
Strasburg, Steven.
Yeah. From a leadership standpoint, those are things you're looking for out of a leader, and he'll do a great job.
Talked about renovations. We got the seats in last year, and now for people who haven't seen the new purple padding around the fencing all the way around the stadium.
Yeah, it completely enclosed our stadium. It made it into more of a stadium than a park. For you guys that don't know, we added what looks like just a solid purple wall. What it does is it attaches to the fence, very similar to things that Clemson does. A lot of big time places do it. College of Charleston did it, and we decided to go with the wow factor and went purple. I got convinced when I saw the company that did it actually had just done TCU football, which is obviously our colors, and we were. When they showed me that, I said, man, we got to do it. And it's got the wow factor. One, it's a whole lot safer with Latham being a small field and obviously running into the fence. But from a wow factor, you will be shocked when you see the stadium and how much it changed it into, just continuing to upgrade and show progression and show where this program's going. It was a huge – I knew it was going to be nice. I didn't know it was going to make that big of an impact going down the sides as well. We're really excited where our program and where our facilities are going.
How's Will Gaddis doing? You talked to him recently?
I did, yeah. Will was in town. Obviously, his girlfriend is still here. She plays on the soccer team. And he stopped by to visit her on the way to Instructs. He's tired,
I talked to him.
He's tired, yeah. He threw, right at 100 innings for us, and I guess he threw 40 or 50 in short season A-ball. But he's starting to learn what it's like to be a pro, and you got to learn to pitch and be smart about it and know how to regulate your effort, all those things that Leo always talks about. But he's doing well, man. I'm excited about him. He's got, a couple more weeks at extended spring training, but then getting some rest and going into the next season being fresh and having a little bit of that electricity back in his arm. Interesting enough, one of my mentors is the bullpen coach in Colorado. So when Will got drafted, he had me on the phone with the manager asking me all about Will, and it was pretty cool. And I said, look, I plan on that kid being up there in the next 2 years, and he's going to throw a lot of strikes for you. So really excited about him going to Colorado. Darren Holmes is my mentor that's up there in the big leagues, and I know he'll have guys up at the top looking out for him.
I thought it was interesting in talking to Will and some other people that basically the last half of his short season, all they allowed him to throw was fastballs and changeups.
Yeah, that's fun.
They took the slider away from him and said, this is all we want you to do.
Yeah, and that's just part of development. They did the same thing to me actually the year I got drafted, and it's tough to put up good numbers. It just is. Hitters aren't dumb. When they go back and talk, they realize, okay, this guy hasn't spun the ball at all. Eventually it gets to the point where they start saying he's not allowed to. So that just, it makes it tough. But in the long run, he's a high draft pick, so he's going to get a lot more chances than, a 25th rounder that they tell, don't throw any break balls. And then the next year they say, well, we released you because you had a 5 ERA. Well, I had a 5 ERA because you wouldn't let me throw any breakable. But they're truly interested in his development. And, I will be shocked if I don't see that kid pitching on ESPN in the next couple of years.
Before we let you go, you've got the alumni game coming up, not this Saturday, but the following Saturday.
Correct. Yeah, we're excited about it. We're going to have our second annual alumni game, Furman Baseball alumni game. What a great turnout we had for our first year. I wasn't sure how the turnout was going to be. It ended up being a blast. We get the guys in uniform, get them out there on the field. We got some gear to give them. Just trying to keep our alumni and invested and make them feel like they're always welcome back home. And even though there's been a change in the leadership here, to know what I think about our alumni, and I know that everything we do is because of the foundation they laid, and it's just a way of me saying thank you and giving back to those guys.
All right, and then the fall will end. When will the Purple White series?
So typically that is the Purple White series. Okay. We have 2 more practices because of rain that have been bumped, but that'll be our grand finale. We'll have a couple practices that weekend after it, but that will be our Purple White series during homecoming weekend.
Sounds like a plan. I'm excited because we're on the cusp of basketball season starting.
Yeah, I'm excited about that too.
And trust me, so am I.
Yeah.
But when basketball season starts,
I know.
You know what's next.
I know. And I tell you what, this is going to be, I know you got to go, this is going to be the toughest schedule that I've seen in the Southern Conference. It is. We have been challenged, and a lot of it was pre-planned, and some of it, to be completely honest with you, we had things fall through.
I was going to ask you who replaces Cincinnati. Who did we finally plug into that weekend?
We are flying out to Wichita State.
Oh, wow.
Seriously?
Yeah.
I hear you.
Shockers. I
Going
like
to
that.
play the Shockers. So that'll be a fun series. We go to NC State, Clemson, South Carolina. I can't remember. I believe it's this year. We still pick up a game with College of Charleston. From here on out, we'll start playing weekend series against College of Charleston. We signed a thing with Georgia, with Ole Miss again. So we're really challenging our boys and excited about seeing us step up to that competition. Listen, if our motto is 1,076, we can't be scared to roll into an SEC school and getting a police escort. That was fun, wasn't it?
It was.
So that's my new thing. I tell our guys, if they don't do police escorts, we don't go. That's the bottom line.
So Wichita, Kansas,
Yep.
police force, we're coming to you.
There you go.
Hey, man, it's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you
All
guys
right.
too.
Thank you, Brett.
That's
Yep.
Brad Harker. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thanks to our previous guest, Dave Glenn, and, of course, if you missed it in studio right at the beginning, Doug Allison, along with McNeil Cronin and his young daughter, Quinn, will be cutting that interview out, this interview out, getting them out on YouTube and tweeting them out so you can go back and watch them again. And be back with you tomorrow as we start laser focusing in on the college football weekend that's coming at us. Until then, for Forrest and for Coach Harker, I'm Dan Scott. Say God bless you, and so long, everybody.